us Brutus, Malada, political analyst, as well as Dr. Joleen Steyn-Kotze, political analyst as well. Thank you very much indeed, lady and gentleman, for staying with us. It is no doubt a busy morning politically. Dr. Steyn-Kotze, if I can go to you with regards to the EFF and its trajectory, especially in an area like KwaZulu-Natal. What do you make of it?
I think there has been a lot of speculation in terms of what is the trajectory of the EFF. The EFF, a lot of analysis also highlighting the strong possibility that the EFF is there to kind of challenge the ANC and is kind of working into those spaces of ANC strongholds. But I think coupled with that narrative, we also have to bear in mind voter turnout. So questions of voter turnout is extremely important, where we find, it seems if we reflect on the 2021 local government elections, people are voting with their feet and not necessarily transferring their vote from one political party to another political party if they are dissatisfied. So, yes, the EFF has been the only party that has seen growth when we look at local government elections and national government elections. But we also have to bear in mind that we have seen a steady decline in the number of eligible voters going out to the polls.
Mr. Malada, we earlier heard from the ANC Treasurer General Paul Mashatile, and it just brought back what he said yesterday to our Vuyo Mboko at the gala dinner with regards to the ANC's salary bill. He said it was about 18 million rand a month, and officials agreed, according to him, that they need to cut that drastically. They are looking at redeploying people to other institutions, looking at retiring people who have reached pensionable age. He said they can't survive with the current wage bill. They need to cut it at least by half. When you look at how things stand economically for the ANC, can the party sustain itself?
No, not at all. Because firstly, the ANC is a party of the past. It is not a party of the future. What I mean is, if you look at the trajectory of the ANC, it has been losing elections in the urban areas. It still remains a dominant party in the rural areas. So what will happen in the near future is that the decline will continue. With the decline comes the decline in terms of financial resources. Because how does the ANC fund itself? The ANC has representation in all regions, in all corners of South Africa. So it has to maintain, to pay salaries of secretaries of regions all over the country. That's why its salary bill is so huge. So the more it loses municipalities, that means the scarcity of the resources to fund the ANC, because it funds itself through the membership as well as the funding that comes from state resources. That's how the ANC has sustained itself over the past 27 years. So with the decline of election results, in terms of its support, losing all major municipalities, it means the ANC will struggle to sustain itself.
Dr. Steyn-Kotze, do you agree with that? Because, part of the ANC's strength is in its history. But does the ANC still hold a strong intellectual and emotional bond for those who grew up after apartheid?
I think the African National Congress for me has kind of followed the trajectory of many liberation movements turned political parties that we have seen across the African continent. And very often what tends to happen is that when you start looking at the history of various liberation movements that were governing parties, liberation capital eventually runs out. That narrative, that political affinity, that feeling of closeness, to a party that had brought democracy, that had brought freedom, etc. That capital eventually runs out due to failures in delivery, due to failures in promises of a better life. The narrative of a better life for many South Africans still remain elusive. We are still dealing with very high levels of poverty, very high levels of inequality, increasing difficulty in the economic situation, most notably due to COVID-19, which has further exacerbated some of those key challenges that we are already sitting. And then on top of that, You also have the state almost acting as a form of personal enrichment, allegedly for some political elites. And due to that, your levels of trust, your feelings of closeness to a political party starts declining, most notably amongst a younger generation.
Look, no doubt, Dr. Steyn-Kotze, that the party will trumpet its resilience over the last 110 years. The ANC's deputy president, David Mabuza, yesterday was saying that the ANC will never die because it has the capacity to self-correct. Does it?
I think, this is kind of for me where the questions around the Zondo report is going to become quite very, very important. We heard Gwede Mantashe, for example, saying, these matters must be dealt with at an institutional level. Granted, yes, it is true, they must be dealt at that institutional level, but also if the party is going to present to the people that it is really serious about bringing back on the agenda good governance, quality governance, seriousness about service delivery and delivering on its promise of wanting to create a better life, then those uncomfortable issues will also need to be dealt with internally within the party. And I think that is where it will be the make or break moment for the ANC, and we could possibly see a very, very big factional implosion for the African National Congress.
Mr. Malada, for the people on the ground, it all boils down to service delivery, isn't it? Bread and butter issues. The ANC's deputy president again yesterday saying that you can't claim to lead society if you are away from the people. How present is the ANC at grassroots level?
The ANC, as I said, it's probably one of the parties that has representation in all corners of South Africa, and that has a lot to do with the history. But as people start to experience corruption, lack of service delivery, people are getting disillusioned with the ANC's promises that are empty promises without any delivery. So the ANC is losing traction, it's losing support, and we have seen out of this last elections that the ANC really lost significantly out of these elections. And therefore, what we can expect in the future is that this trajectory will continue. The ANC will shed support even in the 2024 elections, because this, what happens with the state capture report, whether the ANC takes action or not, if it doesn't take action, the ANC is going to suffer a lot, because we have seen that out of the 2016 elections, there was the Zuma must go. The ANC lost a lot of support in the metros. Now we have the state capture report that is out. If the ANC doesn't do anything, we can expect the same trajectory to happen in 2024. So for me, the ANC used to have a presence, but it's losing support. People are getting disillusioned with its lack of service delivery.
What about the support within the tripartite alliance, Dr. Steyn-Kotze? How would you describe the current tripartite alliance relationship on supporting each other, on trust among the alliance partners?
That's always been quite a somewhat less discussed question, I would say, within, when we talk about the political dynamics and kind of political situations in the country. Bearing in mind the historical relationship between COSATU, the SACP, and the ANC, and also, once again, bearing in mind the level of unhappiness, for example, under the Mbeki administration from the alliance partners, it's almost like that relationship for me has fizzled out a bit. We know that COSATU has spoken out quite strongly around questions of corruption, but it's almost like the SACP has also stated that it will go out and try and contest elections on its own. It was, for example, 2011 local government elections that was mooted. So, one almost wonders to what extent that relationship still holds ground. If one bears in mind that a key representation that the ANC had were workers with a very strong worker focus on and minimum wage and having good working conditions. So I do think again for the ANC, there is a need to kind of almost re-explore and rekindle more of a stronger partnership within the tripartite alliance.
Mr. Malada, Cyril Ramaphosa, one would say, accepted this job with alacrity. This will be, I understand, his 5th January 8th statement. How would you rate his performance so far as ANC president?
Cyril Ramaphosa is, unfortunately, the weakest president of the ANC so far. Why? Look at what happened. He went into government blindfolded by the need for unifying the ANC. Did he succeed in unifying the ANC? No, the ANC is fighting within. That's why we are having the July unrest. It's because of the internal factions, internal battles within the ANC. So he has failed to unite the ANC. Secondly, the state is collapsing under Cyril Ramaphosa. Of course, he inherited a collapsing state. But what did he do to curb the decline? Nothing. Eskom is failing to provide electricity. State-owned enterprises, all of them, they are down. So when you look at Cyril Ramaphosa, to rate him, honestly, he has not done any better job at the state. And the other thing is that, you see, when you are elected as president of a country, or when you are anticipating to become a president, you must surround yourself with people that will be your best, that you are going to get into government with. What did Cyril Ramaphosa do when he got into government? He didn't have his own commissioner of police. He didn't have his own person for state security, which is why people are undermining him. I mean, you can't afford to have a president addressing the nation and you have got a blackout. What was that? You have state security agencies not knowing what is happening in parliament. Parliament is burning. You have the constitutional court under attack. So Cyril Ramaphosa is not in charge. He's the weakest president in this country so far.
Do you agree, Doc, with regards to what Brutus Malada has said with regards to Cyril Ramaphosa's presidency, 10 years president of the ANC?
No, I think when President Cyril Ramaphosa took over the reins of government, but also more importantly, the reins of the leadership of the ANC, it was really done under very, very difficult conditions. Bearing in mind, the party was, I would say, almost buckling under a very, very strong factional divide that had kind of become part and parcel of its organizational culture. It is very interesting that we can actually track this factional divide once again back to that Polokwane moment of 2007. And you look at local councils. I will use Nelson Mandela Bay as an example, where the divide between Mbeki and Zuma actually played out within local councils, and you saw state institutions or administrative structures becoming political theaters for a very, very prolonged period of time. So when you take the reins of power and you need to go and govern, and you are within this very factional, disunited kind of, you've got administrative failure, you've got administrative incapacities, it makes it very, very difficult to pursue a strong political agenda to say, this is what we're going to do, this is who I want in place, purely because there are just too many dynamics that you are trying to control.
Malada alluded to is the security issue that has been raised. The ANC denies that there is any security threat against the president. Yesterday, you saw when the lights went off, and I actually transcribed what the ANC president was saying. As soon as the lights went off, and I understand we couldn't see it from our vantage point, but we were told that the security personnel rushed to the stage, and he was just basically saying that, no, hang on, nothing is going to happen. Go stand back. It is okay. Don't worry. There's nothing dangerous. What's your thoughts with regards to a threat?
I think, again, we have to bear in mind that we are, I would argue and say that we are in a very volatile time. The Zondo Commission reports are coming out. I would assume that there is a very, very strong possibility that possibly a number of people may not want to see the report actually see the light of day. So I think what we are seeing now could be perhaps some precautionary measures, given that we are sitting in this period of volatility, almost so to speak. And I think for the ANC itself, given some of the allegations and some of the names named when we heard the testimonies, and the witnesses throughout the commission, that there might be certain sensitivities around security issues.
Dr. Joleen Steyn-Kotze, as well as Brutus, Malada, please stand by. We need to take a quick break. Our focus on Limpopo, the January 8th statement. We have our reporters fanned out across the province there as well, the build-up. We're going to touch base with them in a short while. Natasha Piri, Samkele Maseko, as well as Bimani Baloy. All that, much, much more. Next.